Hi everybody, my name is Lonnie Bowling, and today I'm continuing with my series of getting started with the PySystem SDKs, and today I'm going to talk about getting started with AF. We've worked on the PySystem up to this point directly, working with PyPoints, but now we're going to dive into how we can work with AF. So the first part is similar to what we started out with part 2 of the series, where we're connecting to the Pi system. This time we're going to be connecting to the AF system, and I'll be going over how we connect to an AF system, what an AF system is versus a historical archive system, and a little bit of difference there, talking about the documentation a little bit too. And we'll also get into what an explicit connection is about, and finally we're going to connect to a database. So this should just really set the table for getting started with working with the various parts of AF. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is start up our PySystem Explorer and connect to my AF server. Now, this system that I have set up is maybe a little bit different than what a lot of people will have, but I have my client computer here is connecting to an Azure server that I have hosting my AF server. So I'm not part of the same domain, which means I need to go ahead and log into that server with where AF is setting with some kind of credentials that are going to work. So in this case, I just want to let me go ahead and close this out. I want to get my password here. And I'm going to log into this AF server and connect to it and take a look. And so some of the, I guess, there might be a little bit of confusion when you first get started with the SDK about what a Pi server is, what an AF server is, and what is a Pi system, and those types of things. So it can be kind of confusing. Hopefully I can clear that up a little bit. What I'm looking at here is in AF, Asset Framework. If you're not familiar with Asset Framework, I certainly recommend that you take a look at some of the online training videos and read some of the documentation to find out how AF works with Pi data. I'm not going to have time to dive into all the ins and outs of what can be done with AF, but needless to say that if you're not using AF now with your overall Pi system that you have, then you're missing out on a lot of capabilities and features. So I would certainly highly recommend that you take a strong look at AF and see what it's about, and start thinking about how you can use AF versus using just directly using the Pi data. This is really, to me, this is kind of a great extension of the capabilities with time series data, is having AF. So enough about AF as far as how great it is, but what I wanted to talk about, go over a little bit before we get into coding, since we are talking about how to connect to the system, is what an AF server looks like, and what that's going to be referenced in when we get into the SDK. So here's the AF server that I'm connected to, which is called SkyPi, and that's the computer that's running up in the cloud in Azure. And I can drop down and look and see if there's other servers that are also available. And in this case, I have a few. Excuse me. And by clicking on these little this little dash button here, you can see that it's listing all the AF servers that are available. I can add an AF server here if I want to, and give it a name and point it to the right server that on my network. But I've already added these in, so there's no reason for me to do that again. But what I want to point out, and this gets missed quite easily, is which one of these is my default server, because we're going to want to connect to the default server. And if you look really closely here, there's a little black checkbox. Hopefully you can make that out in the video. Anyway, that is what's saying my default server that's what's setting up as my default server. I can right-click any of these other ones and set it as my default server if I want. I really wish OSIsoft would make that a little bit more obvious as to what the default server is, because it's really easy to miss it. So anyway, I have SkyPy set up as my default server, and also the same goes for databases. So within an AF server, we can create multiple databases, and you can just right-click and go to New Database here if you want to add one, or you can delete databases and do various things with it. But I have another checkbox in the same way. You can set a database as default by clicking on it, right-clicking, and then selecting it as default. I have this database called PyDog, which is the one we're going to be working with as my default database. So that kind of runs through what we have. So just to kind of regroup here, we have this thing called the AF server, which is pointing to the physical machine where the server is located, where AF is located. Now AF is on a SQL Server database. It's built on top of a SQL Server database, and that's all we're talking about in this case, is where is the SQL Server database setting, and that's the AF server. And then we have AF database, which is in this case called PyDog. Okay, and then here within my SkyPy, I have PyDog, and then I have my base elements here, and I can create new elements if I want, and do various things with it. Okay, so that is how the AF is set up. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the SDK and kind of relate the SDK, the AF SDK, to what I just talked about. Okay, I'm going to go back to help. I'll go into my help topics, try to get this resized so it looks good, and I want to open up the SDK library reference. And if you remember, we've been diving around in this in various places, but one of the new areas that I want to point out is this called hierarchies, and this is pretty handy to kind of get an overall view of how AF is put together. So I'm going to just click on this top one called the PySystem hierarchy. Okay, now we have this OSIsoft.af. This is the namespace that we're working in, and we've worked with namespaces in Visual Studio now a little bit with the Py namespace, the af.py namespace, which is this bottom one here. This is where we've been focused in. And remember, we had a Py servers plural, which is that known table that we're working with about Py SDK, and then we had a Py server. And then from there, we went in and we started working with PyPoints. Okay, so we're not in this area anymore. Where we're in is we're in this top area here, which, and all of these sub namespaces that are associated with that. And we're going to be kind of working our way down this tree, okay, in this hierarchy. So we need to start with the PySystems, and then out of the PySystems, we're going to grab a specific system. Now, the way to think about this is the PySystems is the list of AF servers, or AF servers that we are looking at when I initially pulled down what AF server that we wanted to connect to. So those in the SDK are known as PySystems, okay? And then a specific system, like in this case, we're connected to SkyPy. That's going to be a single server, AF server, that we'll be working with. And then from a system, we're going to come down into databases right here. And that's going to be a list of all those databases that we had. And then finally, we're going to select a specific database to work on. Once we have our connection to a specific database, then we can start doing things with manipulating elements and attributes and things like that, okay? So that's where we're going to work through. So let's go ahead and click on the PySystem here, PySystems, and take a look at what we need to do. And it says here, it's a global collection of PySystems objects maintained by the AF SDK, represents the known systems available, okay, from a workstation. Okay, so that's going to be going back to here, all right, that's going to be This is a list of my known servers, all right? And so this is the one we're connected to, okay? So, coming down and looking at the code, you can read this documentation and it gives you more information. I gave a quick summary here of what it is. But the main thing is we want to come down and we can see the source code. And what we need to do is we need to create this new system. And then from there we can go ahead and get a specific system and start taking a look at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and come over to Visual Studio, and I want to start up a new project. And this one we're going to call we'll call this AF Demo 2, and this is a console application, which is what we're same type of application that we're working with before. Just going to give us a window. Command window a console window that we'll be looking at. So the first thing I want to do is bring in my reference, make sure that I have framework up here selected, and then I can go OSIsoft and take a look at all the different items that are installed. And all I need is just the AF SDK, and I can use a version 4 since I'm using the latest of everything. And you can see I have this is the AF version 2.5.2. And okay, now from here we want to go ahead and get a hold of that PySystems object and take a look at that. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do is I'm going to go PySystems. I know that's what it's called, and I'll bring in this this namespace OSIsoft.af, and we'll call this systems. Okay, and this will be equal to new PySystems, and it's actually a method. And from there we could go ahead and we could list out what our PySystems are. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll do a for each, and I'm going to use a little snippet here that's built into Visual Studio. I'm going to hit tab, and what that'll do is that'll just get all the kind of the scaffolding in place so I can easily go through. And we'll call this sys, and then here we'll call this systems, and then we'll do a console, and we'll do and we'll just list out these systems. Okay, and we'll do a system, and we have the name, property, and we can go ahead and run that. But just so we can take a look at our results, let's go ahead and do a read key so we can stop at the end and we can take a look at what we have. So let's go ahead and run that and see what we have. So you can see I just listed out all the various PySystems that we have, and you can see that we have the 5, and they're listed just like when we're looking at the PySystem Explorer. Okay, so the next item that we want to do, let's go ahead and take a look at what is the default system, which is the one that we have selected as default. Okay, so this one we can go ahead and just say, let's go ahead and get our default system. So this is going to be a PySystem, Siegel system, and this is very much similar to when we're doing the PyServer and PyServers. We can get the default system just by going systems dot default PySystem, and that'll bring that in for us, and then we can go ahead and let's go ahead and write that out. And right line, and we'll do system dot name, and let's go ahead and put something in front of that just so that we know the default system is going to be that. Okay, and let's try running that and see what we get. So there you can see the one that we have selected is SkyPy, and that's the default PySystem. Now remember, PySystem and AF server, they're kind of the same. Not kind of, they actually are the same. Just want to keep you on your toes. Okay, so that's great. We have a PySystem, and you know, right now we're actually not connecting to anything. We're just reading this known servers table and we're looking at it. And what we want to do is we want to be able to connect to a PySystem, and then we want to get a database. Okay, so So one of the things I can just do right away is, since I have a hold of my default system, I can go ahead and just say system.connect and just try to call that method and see what happens. And if we come back to our documentation, just to get caught up here on where we are, we've dropped down to PySystem, and then we want to call this connect. And the PySystem, if I come over and look at the PySystem, there's a connect method here, and the connect method is going to try to establish a remote connection, and then we can, using this connect info that we can configure or set up and change. Connect info is already, there's default settings for it, and we're going to keep those. But anyway, the main thing is just to realize, okay, we can make a connection, and then we can also we can disconnect too. Okay, so this is just going to try to get us to connect to that default server. So let's go ahead and just try that connection, just see what happens, see if we can connect to the default server. And I was expecting that it was going to fail, because remember I had to log on with those credentials when I first opened up PySystem Explorer. Same problem we're having here. We just can't directly connect to that. And here it says you cannot connect to the Pi server. So we need to do something more than just call this connect method, or call something that would cause that connect to trigger. So I want to look at some databases. I would like to see it work on a database, but before we do that, we need to get this problem cleared up. Okay, so one of the things that we can do is we can create we can explicitly connect to a Pi server. And explicit just means that we're going to specify what server it is that we want to connect to, and we're going to give it some credentials also in this case. So implicit is just saying, hey, connect to something like a default server, which is great, and connect with the default or the user's credentials that are already part of Windows. Now, if this client machine that I had was on the same domain as the server, then I could probably just set up my credentials within the domain, within Active Directory, to go ahead and automatically authenticate myself. But that's not going to work here because we have two computers on different domains, so we really need to get into an explicit type of a connection. And coming into here, we can see that the connect, use the connect network credentials method to provide user credentials to be used when connecting to the Pi system. So that's what we really would like to do is to do this network credentials deal. And this connects to the server using specified credentials and allows sending and retrieving of data, which is what we need to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can get that. Let's get that going. Now, if you notice that the network credential type is system.net network credential. Okay, that's what we need to use, and that's part of the standard .NET framework that comes with that Microsoft has provided. So what we need to do here is we just need to go ahead and we need to do this credentials, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and call this is going to be new network credentials credential. Let me right click on that and resolve that. That'll bring in the system.net. And here we can see I can pass in a username and a password, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to pass in the same credentials that I used before. And I'm going to paste my password in here. And this will get the credentials object set up, and then from here, if we look at the overloads available with the connect method, you can see that we have this network credential that we can pass in, and that is what I want to do. I want to pass in this, and once we do that, then we can see if we actually are able to connect. And we'll go ahead and give that a shot. And there's not an error. If I hit enter, you can see we made it to the read key line, so that did in fact get us connected. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take a look at our databases. Remember, we have this list of databases that were available. So let's go ahead and do the same thing, and we'll do a for each, and we'll call this a database. And in here, this is going to be the system is going to have a list of databases associated with it. Okay, so we're just coming down. We're coming over to here. And let's go back to my hierarchical picture. Here's my databases, and then you can see system databases, and then there will be a database off of that. So we want to go ahead and grab, we want to get to this point. So let's go ahead and see what we see with our database, a list of each database. So we'll just do another console right line, and we'll just list out our the database, and everything has a name, so we'll just do that. And let's go ahead and up here, let's just to make it more readable, let's do a console right line, and I want to do a databases found. Yeah, let's do that, and let's go ahead and try that and see what we get. So here you can see the database is found. We found 4 different databases, and finally let's see if we can figure out which is the default database. Okay, and come down here, and you probably could write this code. This is really simple, right? We're just going to do a console, and we'll do our right line, and we'll go ahead and just say default database, and we'll call this system, and we're going to get our databases again. But here we can look at what our default database is from that database collection, and out of that we want to get the name, right? Okay, let's go ahead and see how that looks. Okay, so there we go. We have a system, a list of our PI systems, the default system, list of our databases, and the default database. So that's great. And then finally, the last thing we want to do is we want to probably set up an object here to be able to work on that. And that's going to be a well, let's go look at the documentation just to find out what type it is. We're looking at this database here, and this is an AF database, and here's the members of what we can do with an AF database. So an AF database is going to become critical for us to go ahead and work with elements and attributes. We have to have a database that we're going to work with, and we're going to use this AF database object when we're working with elements and attributes. So we're going to do this var database equals, and we're just going to grab that system dot databases default database. Okay, we're going to set that object up. Now this database object, as long as we have this database object, we'll be able to do a bunch of cool things. Okay, so that is what I wanted to cover in this part. We're going to take this code and continue on working with some elements and attributes in the next couple of parts. So stay tuned. I hope that you're able to follow along and that you can see, connecting to the AF system is not all that difficult. And remember, in the SDK, when we're talking about PI systems, we're talking about AF server, and then we have from the AF server we have the idea of this database, and you can have a bunch of different databases and create, delete, do whatever you want with them. Okay. All right, so stay tuned. I'll be coming out with a few more parts here shortly. So I hope that this video was useful, and I'll talk to you later. My name is Lonnie Bowling. Thanks again. Bye-bye.